Gordon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Liam. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. I've spent the last hour and a half trying to wrap my head around what you guys do, how you use AI, and how everything works. So I am really excited to dive into this today.
So I'm well excited to chat with you.
All right, let's start basics. I'm looking at your LinkedIn and it says this. If you're interested in empowering people with technology and transforming one of the most antiquated industries in the world, I'd love to chat. So I get 3 questions to that. What is your industry? Why do you consider it antiquated? And how is what you're doing transforming it?
Right. I guess we'll start high level. But the industry that we're in at Newfront is insurance. Fundamentally, our job in the insurance world is to take whatever existential risk you're facing and transfer it to the capital markets. And what I mean by that is any new venture. Imagine you're starting a business, you're going on a trip, you're about to, I don't know, climb up Mount Everest. There's some risks that you're excited about and you want to take on that are kind of unique to what you're doing, and those are risks that you're willing to accept. There's also risks that are maybe a little bit more existential. And to give a concrete example, let's say you're starting something like a bakery. You're taking on risk around, can I bake really good cookies and muffins? Can I attract customers to come to my bakery? That's your job as a business owner. You don't want to take on the risk of, if your kitchen catches on fire and burns down the building, how are you going to pay to, pay back the landlord and rebuild? And so the job of the insurance markets is to help you transfer those sorts of existential risks so you can really focus on what you're great at and what you're excited about with your new venture. It's a dusty industry because it's been around forever. I mean, really, it developed many years ago, kind of as people started investing capital and doing innovative things. They wanted this sort of insurance that some of these existential risks could be protected against. There's these amazing stories about the Lloyd's of London coffee shop where people would literally write on a chalkboard, write down their name of, okay, you're going out in this ship. I'm going to underwrite this journey so that if the ship sinks, you'll still, make some money and people will be paid back. And now, insurance is used for every part of the economy, every business, satellite launches, new medical developments, you name it. And so that's kind of the high level on the industry we're in and what we do. I'm happy to dive into, any part of that.
Well, I guess another part of your LinkedIn bio there is like, why is that market antiquated?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of it's interesting that it hasn't modernized faster. I think you look at other industries, even heavily regulated industries like banking, and they're more modern, right? You can log into your Bank of America account and see your balance and probably request a new checkbook online. And the world of property and casualty insurance doesn't have anything like that. I think it's one of those purchases that doesn't most people aren't really thinking about it every day, especially the market that we focus on, which is commercial insurance. So insurance that businesses are buying. It's sort of like this dark matter, right? It impacts every building you walk into, every car on the road, but you're not really thinking about it. It really comes into play when something really bad happens. And, at those really scary moments, that's when the insurance is absolutely crucial. But hopefully, 99.9% of the time, it's not really top of mind.
Yeah, you'd rather not think about it. Insurance isn't something that I want to think about, but it's something that I have to think about realistically, right?
Yeah. And that's why our vision, our sort of lofty vision as a company is de-risking human progress. We really want to, instead of just focus on, oh, it's something when something really bad happens, this is why you buy insurance. It's more like, no, we're taking this stuff off your plate so you can go and create these amazing inventions, start new ventures, discover new technologies. That's what's exciting about the insurance space.
Can you tell me more about what Newfront actually does? From what I understand, you're an insurance brokerage. You're kind of the middleman between these businesses and insurance providers and providing best possible results, empowering those people in the middle. You break that down and kind of explain that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, that's right. That's the perfect overview. So, when a business goes out and buys insurance, they typically, unless you're a Fortune 500 company, won't have a dedicated risk management team. It's typically, someone in the finance department, the legal team, who will work with a broker. And the broker's job, our job at Newfront, is to go and negotiate with all the different insurance companies. And so we have a really good understanding, and at this point, years of data around which insurance companies provide the best coverage and how do we sort of create a program to get you the best pricing and the best coverage for your business.
Before we jump into how you're using AI, how you're empowering those people in the middle, I want to take things back just a second. So, from what I understand, you guys were founded in 2017, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Were you founded with AI in mind, with software in mind? Like, what was the initial founding vision, and when did AI enter the picture?
Yeah, we definitely were thinking about AI. It was a different type of AI, generative AI, like what we're dealing with today. But in general, with artificial intelligence or any piece of technology, it was, how do we take this amazing technology and apply it to this very dusty industry? To give you a concrete example, we think a lot about how do we sort of analyze risk data and help clients think through different scenarios, right? If you're buying, potentially spending millions of dollars on a set of insurance policies, you want to know, well, what's the likelihood that there's actually going to be a claim? You know, these policies are going to come into play and be worth it. And so to sort of power that, we use kind of some more traditional machine learning techniques, essentially creating a regression to understand, okay, based off of all of the data that we've seen, other data sets that we can aggregate, what's the likelihood of a claim this year? That was the sort of AI that we're thinking about. How do we leverage that for the insurance space when we started in 2017? Obviously, generative AI has really accelerated things because this whole industry runs on PDFs and emails. And so there's tons of unstructured data that, previously we had to rely a lot on people to do sort of data entry and to take advantage of this data. And increasingly, we can leverage large language models to extract way richer data and build a system that improves over time.
You try to make that really visceral for me and the listeners as well. Like, I imagine parsing through thousands of documents back then was an absolute nightmare for these people. Whereas now you can do that in seconds. Is there like a comparison you can make in terms of like specific estimated times, how much work it took, how many hours?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's lots of examples across the business. To give you something really concrete, something we help with is helping our clients review contracts. So let's say you're a business that you're about to sign a big enterprise contract. This contract will typically have a big section around insurance requirements because that customer that you're about to sign on, maybe they're concerned about if you get hacked and you have a data breach, is any of their data at risk? And so typically clients would send us these documents. They'd say, hey, can you help me review this contract? And of course, we're happy to help with that, but it might take us a week to schedule a call with you. And then behind the scenes, our team is spending many hours reading through that contract to understand the insurance requirements, and then opening up your policies. So potentially multiple 200-page PDFs that describe what coverage do you have in place, what are the different sort of claim scenarios when these things will kick in, what's excluded, and sort of doing this laborious matching process to understand, are you covered based on what the contract requires? And so that's, many hours of work, and then you're not getting an answer for, a week or two until you talk to us about it. Well, now with AI, we have an AI powered contract review tool. So clients can log into Newfront Navigator, which is our client dashboard. They can drag in that contract, and we use an LLM to parse out the insurance requirements and compare it to your current program. So we instantly flag, less than a minute, we flag, are there areas where you don't have sufficient coverage or where there's language in your policy so that you actually can't really sign the contract right now? And it's a great, kicks off a great conversation where you can then talk to your expert on the Newfront team, and we'll decide, hey, do we push back on this contract? Do we maybe get you some additional coverage? How do we deal with this issue?
Something that really stood out to me when kind of researching you guys was some of the figures mentioned on your website. It mentions that 3.1 billion in annual premiums were placed through you guys, and almost 20% of US unicorns are represented. What is that due to? So, as like hearing what I'm hearing so far, I'm thinking you guys were kind of first movers on this AI technology, it allowed you to secure more contracts. Was there any other kind of factors involved? Am I right in saying that? Kind of break that down for me.
Yeah, so we started in San Francisco, and this is kind of our bread and butter is working with fast moving, innovative companies that are like Newfront in helping them get some of their first policies. When they're maybe they're raising their first serious round of funding. Maybe they're going to sign a very large enterprise contract, and they realize, oh, I need cybersecurity insurance, I need errors and emissions insurance. So we help them at that stage, but then we want to grow with them. So a lot of those companies go on and raise significant growth funding. They eventually go public, work with about 150 public companies. And so that's really where we focus, is understanding those businesses and their needs. That being said, in 2025, we also have thought a lot about how do we diversify. So now we work across the whole US. We have experts who are in real estate, construction, manufacturing, pretty much every industry and every geography. But tech and life sciences is really where we started and is still a major focus for us.
And you guys are a product of Y Combinator yourself, am I right in saying that?
Yep, that's right.
Got you, so that it fits in with that industry. I assume to some degree those kind of tech and fast moving companies are kind of more open to the idea of adopting this AI as well, right? I imagine if you're trying to break into kind of older industries such as real estate, manufacturing stuff, it might be a bit of a tougher conversation. How have you found kind of like broaching these new markets and talking about AI? Are people more open to it than they were a year, 2 years, 5 years ago?
It's funny. I think one lesson is that it's always so person specific. In any group of people, there's a distribution where there's going to be some of those technology leaders who are super excited about trying new things, what's on the cutting edge. And then there's some laggards who are not as excited. They kind of want to keep doing things the same old way. And you're right that tech companies are excited and more willing to adopt AI solutions. But I mean, I think about clients in every industry. I mean, we work with one of the largest crane operators in the US, and they're actually a huge adopter of the contract review product I mentioned, because they have a lot of these very complex contracts they're signing. When they're going onto a job site, they need to understand what's the liability, who's responsible in the event that there's an issue or someone gets hurt. And being able to review those contracts really quickly is an unlock for their business, right? They can move a lot faster by working with Newfront than working with someone else.
It might I'm not sure the last time you were in a kind of conversation where you're negotiating a contract, you're in that sales process, you're a CTO, you're a co-founder. I imagine your job's a much more high level thing. But I was wondering if you could take me into that room where you're maybe talking to a new client, you're having a conversation with them, you're kind of explaining the benefits of working with Newfront. Why work with you guys? Obviously, AI is part of that conversation. What else is part of that conversation?
Yeah, so we touched on a few different things. A big part of it is our technology and how we give you these sorts of tools that no other broker offers. I mean, even, where we
Does
started
no
with,
other broker offer that?
that's right. Yeah, I mean, most brokers, I know it sounds crazy, but most of them don't even have a client dashboard where you can log in and access your policies, access your certificates of insurance. Some stuff that I think you would say is, that's got to be table stakes in 2025, but it really, the industry has not caught up. And then these AI solutions, I think, go well beyond that in terms of really giving you some powerful tools, some amazing data and analytics that you wouldn't have elsewhere. But I think a big part of the story is definitely the experts on our team. I mean, so much of our product is about supercharging the insurance professionals who come to Newfront because they're excited about technology. They're excited about giving their clients a more data driven, a more transparent experience. And so by working with Newfront, you really get the best of both worlds, right? You get sort of these trusted insurance experts as well as the technology platform that makes the experience a lot better.
I want to break down maybe some of the tooling that you've created. So you kind of mentioned stuff like the contract review tools. I know about Benji a little bit, things like the coverage gap analysis you mentioned in that interview recently. Can you talk me through like one or two of your kind of favorite innovations that you've made? And maybe if possible, cover one piece of tooling that maybe you've created and has just become defunct and people didn't want or people didn't use.
Sure. Yeah, I guess in terms of what I'm, particularly proud of, I mean, there's a lot of great products to talk and we have a really kick-ass team. So I'm super excited about everything we're working on. But you mentioned Benji, and that's on the total reward side. So helping our clients with not just their business insurance, but their employee benefits, so medical, dental, vision plans, things like that. And one of the most common things we heard from our clients is that employees will have benefits questions like, how do I contribute to my HSA? Or, I bought a pair of prescription glasses. Can I buy prescription sunglasses this year too? And it really takes a lot of HR teams' time to answer all of these questions. And so we built Benji. It's been live for a couple of years now, but it's trained on that client's employee benefits guide, their HR handbook, all of the plan summaries, and it in a very convenient way. So in Slack or in our mobile app, it answers those employee questions. Um, Not only is it a great experience for those employees because they can ask 24/7 in a really confidential, secure way, but it also helps those HR teams. It saves those teams who are our clients about a month per year on average. So it's really taking a meaningful work off of their plate. And so Benji is definitely something I'm really proud of. And we have a lot of great improvements coming down the pipe for that. You mentioned though, something where we shipped it and it was defunct. It didn't work out too well. And I think about a lot of the tools internally where we've really tried to streamline a lot of data entry. So making it easy for you to open up one of these 200-page PDFs and enter all of the information, right? The limits, the sublimits, the endorsements, the exclusions, hundreds of fields. And this doesn't impact our clients. It's more our insurance experts who are working behind the scenes. But it's been a slog, right? Because I think that those people, they don't want to do that data entry. And so much of our promise is, hey, we're making it easier. We're taking that work off of your plate. And what's so exciting about the moment we're sitting in now with LLMs is we can truly automate it, right? We go beyond just augmenting those workflows to saying, hey, you actually no longer have to do any work here. You just drag in that PDF, we will parse out all the information. And that was a step function change that really happened just in the past year as these LLMs have become more powerful.
You're so ahead of the game in your specific industry in terms of the tooling you provide, in terms of technology. How do you stay at the forefront of that? What does your research and development process look like? Are you consistently doing focus groups? How are you interplaying with kind of new LLMs? There's always a new one released every single week. How do you stay at the very cutting edge of that?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, our development team is definitely they're pushing the pace. They're the ones who are, setting up 2 different Claude Code instances, and we're constantly talking about what's new and doing things like tech talks to keep our team on that cutting edge. We think a lot though about how do we help our non-technical users. So some of our insurance colleagues, how do we help them adopt these tools and feel like it's giving them a lift, not like it's some scary thing that's going to take away their job or something like that. And one cool example of that is we do an annual hackathon where we fly in our whole team and spend a week together hacking on different projects. And this year we did something called the Newfront Bike Shop. And the idea there was anyone at the company. So you could be an account executive, you could be an insurance broker, you could be an ops person. We asked them to use ChatGPT and build some sort of cool solution or tool in that week and kind of highlight, hey, like this is how it really helped me do my job. And we had those folks give presentations, like a 1-minute sort of lightning talk at the end of the week. And we had about 55 submissions from across the team. And then we picked 5 winners. And it was a cool example of kind of sort of holding them up and celebrating, hey, look, they're using AI and it's really helping them in their jobs. And I think that's how you get that sort of cultural change that's so important beyond just giving them a new tool.
You break that down further for me. You're talking about the big shop, this one-off event. But in terms of culture, like how do you maintain that culture consistently of innovation, of using AI? Is that something you send out in a newsletter? Do you have internal talks? Like how are you encouraging that internally?
Oh, it's got to be a constant drip campaign, beyond just a one-off event. So, you have the hackathon and then you have a follow-up email sort of summarizing it and celebrating that. We do things like, every couple of weeks at our town hall, we'll have a sales celebration where we celebrate a new sales win, and then a service celebration. So celebrating how we're helping one of our existing clients. And we try to really highlight examples of where we're using the technology. And oftentimes we're using one of these AI powered tools and how that either helped us win new business or helped us support that client. And, it's finding all these different ways to sort of keep it top of mind and keep reminding people how it's helping our business and giving our colleagues lift.
If, say, for example, a new employee joins the business, I come and join the business and I'm going to do podcasts for Newfront. How do you kind of integrate that into me as soon as I join? Is that part of the interview process? Am I going through like formal steps of training? Do I have to take courses? What does that look like?
Well, Liam, if you ever want to come join Newfront and just help us with our media arm, I'm open to it. We should chat.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
But yeah, let's see. I guess a couple different things. I think it starts even before we onboard new hires. So something we started literally from, I don't know, when we were 10 people, something like that, we had what we called our values interviews. And so the idea there is everyone who gets hired at Newfront is interviewed by someone from a completely different team. And the idea is those folks are not asking you so much about, are you qualified? Can you get the job done? They're asking you more for examples of what are some of the things you've done in your past to get a sense of what are your core values and are those values aligned with how we operate at Newfront? That those value interviewers actually have a veto on the interview process. They can say, hey, this person is really qualified, but the way they, talked about this experience, it doesn't sound like they really act like an owner. They don't really have the orientation that we're looking for. And so that's really
Sorry,
sort of,
can I interrupt you? You mentioned core values and then you mentioned ownership. Is that the biggest thing that you're looking for, the biggest indicators? There are any other pillars that you really, really want to see in someone from the words, the verbiage they use?
act like owners is one of our core values. There are a few others, and kind of depending on the role and who the values interviewer is, they might dig in one area or the other. That's one that I'm particularly passionate about, just because I think it orients people to the company in a certain way when they think about, hey, I'm really an owner in this business. We're building a big, enduring company, and I want to make it really great. It's the kind of thing where think about the way you treat your car versus the way you treat a rental car. It's a totally different orientation. And it's also something that's very unique in the insurance industry. So in technology, it's common that everyone gets stock options or RSUs, but at most insurance brokerages, sort of the rank and file, like the typical hire, doesn't really get any equity. Oftentimes, it's sort of just the people whose name is on the door, and that doesn't create the best environment. And it's really, by having that core value, it keeps that front and center that we are doing something differently here.
With that core value, are you incentivizing ownership through equity?
Yep, that's right. So it's both a value in terms of, hey, we expect people to behave a certain way, but then yeah, it's also a big part of the compensation. A lot of folks at Newfront are betting a lot on the company being successful. I mean, I certainly am, and are in it for building a big enduring company.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak to the scale that you're speaking about, but running a small startup of 10 to 15 people, I'm running into the same issues. And I imagine yours is just that magnified, where bringing in new employees, it's really hard to have someone take ownership unless they can see their equity kind of building over time as well. So amazing to see that. And I imagine the incumbents in the insurance industry are kind of lagging behind in terms of that and a cultural perspective as well as a technology perspective. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't want to speak poorly of anyone, but yeah, I do think that we are hearing a lot of announcements about AI and being more innovative from some of the big players in the industry. I think the challenge is if it's not part of your DNA in terms of, how is the company started and sort of who makes up that core team, it's hard to kind of just buying Copilot from Microsoft doesn't really give you that.
Mm.
And we started the company with this idea of how do we bring together the best in class insurance professionals with world class technologists, and that's been something from the very beginning. And just constantly repeating that and thinking about that with every hire and every investment we make, that's really what's gotten us to where we are, and it's going to keep us moving forward.
When you're hiring, is whether someone uses AI a signal of whether they're an operator?
But yeah, I mean, at this point, if a candidate can't speak to how they're using AI, they are not going to be a good fit. Doesn't mean that I'm not asking for them to be using Claude Code if they're not on the engineering team,
Mm.
but they should at least have an open mind and be thinking about, oh yeah, I was trying to get this thing done, and I was able to use ChatGPT in this way. I mean, what's amazing about this generative AI wave is that we're English is the ultimate programming language and unlocks this giga brain that you can access 24/7. So really, anyone who can type into a keyboard or speak into a microphone can take advantage of these LLMs.
Yeah, I think in general we found the same as well, is that people that are operators and want to be cross-functional and think with a problem-solving first approach and taking that initiative, they're already using AI in multiple ways, and it's a really, really good signal of someone that kind of takes that initiative. In terms of the departments that you guys work with the most, I know that you mentioned HR. We were actually I'm not sure if you'll be there as well. Next week's the SHRM conference down in
Cool.
San Diego as well.
I won't be at that one, but that sounds exciting.
We'll miss you. In terms of departments you work with most, like, is it mostly HR? Is it, I'm assuming not so much marketing, but operations? Like, what department do professionals come to you from the most? Because I assume, as you said, like, you're kind of filling in this gap where a lot of departments don't have a risk, or a lot of companies don't have a risk department. So who's usually in touch with you?
Yeah. So on the business insurance side, it's typically the CFO or the general counsel or someone on one of their teams. And then on the total reward side, it's going to be the chief people officer or the VP of HR. So it's kind of the finance slash legal, and then the HR person on the C-suite.
Okay, awesome. Something I'm really curious about is maybe some of the challenges you've encountered in terms of just implementing AI within the insurance industry. I
Mhm.
imagine, I don't know much about it, but I imagine that the insurance industry is heavily regulated. Then AI as a technology, it feels very unregulated at the moment because I think it is. How do those two things fit together?
Yeah, well, it's regulation is definitely in the early stages, and it's really fast moving, right? Like you said, it's something new is coming out, every day, every week. A few things that we've done. One is having a really good, almost like a set of principles around how we adopt AI, and having that something that's published that everyone at the company can see. And it's things like we really believe in human in the loop type solutions. I mean, you probably can imagine a lot of these workflows we're dealing with are really complex. They involve these difficult risk management decisions. And so we're often thinking, hey, how do we build something that can supercharge a broker? We're not thinking, hey, we want to just take this workflow and totally handle it, all the way to the end and make a suggestion. We want to instead bring in that data and sort of insights and make a recommendation that the insurance professional can run with. That's one example. Another one is having good disclaimers. I think it is really important that we make it clear, something like Benji, hey, this is our best guess at how to help you based on what we know about your benefits, the plans you're enrolled in. But if it's something really thorny, you should be talking to the HR team. And so a lot of the testing that we've done around Benji is, and we now have many, many evals and tests around this, is making sure that if someone is, asking something really serious, like maybe they're talking about a big mental health concern, some sort of self-harm concern, Benji is going to step in and say, "Hey, I really can't help you with this. You should talk to HR,"
Mm,
because we don't want to sort of overpromise and underdeliver with what AI can do. We want it to be helpful and supportive for the things that it's really good at.
yeah, I do love the human in the loop approach, and I think it's a great thing to have integrated here because you can have a half and half. For example, we do some teaching with the SHRM classes, and we do a bunch of AI teaching for HR professionals. And something they mention is that a lot of their employees within their organization don't feel comfortable speaking to them about certain things. So, for example, some employees might be like, I want to learn about my retirement plans, if I can retire in the next 3 years, what that looks like. But they don't want to speak to someone in the company because then that gives off a certain vibe. So it's really good to have that integration of like, here I can have my privacy, my silence, my security, but when I want to speak to an individual, I can as well.
Yeah, that's such a great example of how it's going to be. Not only is it giving you the same experience you'd have talking to the HR team to get the answer, it's actually even better because it is this kind of secure, confidential thing where you can ask it anything and have that confidence.
Talk to me a little bit more about security and compliance. I know that you guys are SOC 2 compliant, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
How does that factor into the conversation? Is that important to startups? How important is that to you?
Yeah, it's very important. Not just with AI, but really with any sort of tool or vendor that we're building with, because we have such sensitive data, right? We deal with our clients' employee information, their financials, potentially sensitive contracts, you name it. So it is really important data that we want to protect. And with any sort of vendor, like maybe it's a new AI vendor that we're considering, we're very careful to go through a security and legal review and make sure that we do feel comfortable working with them, and we're thoughtful about what information are we sharing with them. It's very easy. I mean, especially with something like ChatGPT, right? People suddenly feel comfortable. Oh, I can drag anything into this, and it feels very laissez-faire. But we really emphasize that with the team of, hey, there's enterprise ChatGPT, and there's our AI powered products. Those are, we have an enterprise contract in place. There's things like guarantees around not training on the data. That's very different from going to chatgpt.com and just typing something random in there. And so making it clear that, there's a difference, and one is okay and the other is not.
Awesome. Looking forward, next 5, 10 years, how do you see AI reshaping your industry? You kind of mentioned the idea of a North Star before. Where do you see Newfront?
Yeah, well, what's so funny and exciting about the AI world right now is that I don't think you can predict 5 years out, or even 6 months. Things change very quickly. The thing that we're very excited about right now is seeing some of these agentic services really start to work. So we now have, for example, a placement service, which is an agentic service where we're able to handle a lot of the sort of mundane work around collecting underwriting details from a client, sending it out to various underwriters, parsing the information that comes back so we can make a nice quote comparison, kind of a lot of the grunt work around going through a renewal. And this is something that only started working recently as these LLMs have gotten better at longer running tasks and being able to chain together different tool calls. And it's really exciting to think about where the world heads with something like that. I think it's going to be just this unbelievable transformation where previously things that we could only maybe do for our top clients, our biggest enterprise clients, where you can invest lots of resources, will suddenly be available to every client. And the amount of work that, one person on our team will be able to do will 10 or 100x. Just go up by orders of magnitude thanks to these sorts of tools.
Talk to me about that on a personal perspective. You're a co-founder, you're a CTO, you're doing podcast appearances, you're doing conversations online, but you're also so ahead on the actual technology itself, where you're going, you're leading strategy. Like, how do you break up your time? What does that look like?
It varies a lot depending on, what's the priority. Right now, we talked a little bit about how do you stay on the cutting edge of what are all these different tools and what's coming out. I think the key is to lay out, hey, this is our overall product strategy. These are the bets that we're excited about. Things like some of the data ingestion work we talked about, or more of these agentic services, being willing to sort of readjust and say, hey, we laid out a strategy at the beginning of 2025. We're about 6 months in now. What worked, what didn't work? There's now a bunch of new models, a bunch of new capabilities. We should be able to be more ambitious for the end of the year. And so constantly trying to think about how do we sort of use what's out there and adopt it as quickly as possible.
And how do you do that on a personal level? Do you listen to podcasts? You read books? You have an AI guy that just keeps up to date on AI news and whispers in your ear now and then? How do you do that?
That would be pretty cool. I guess I'm that guy right now. I do spend a lot of time reading, listening to podcasts. What's great about being in San Francisco is it's kind of just in the water. It seems like if you wanted to, you could, every night go to a different AI dinner or AI conference. Do try to you can't spend all your time just focused on that. I guess one of the advantages of your job is you kind of can just do that, which is pretty cool.
Mm.
But, try to just constantly be sort of drinking from the fire hose and then sharing things that seem useful with the team. We talked a lot about things we're building. We're also using different off the shelf tools. And so when I see something that looks really cool, well, let's get a demo. Let's get, a couple of our insurance professionals to come and sort of kick the tires and try things out. We want everyone to be thinking about how do we adopt what's new and how does it help us move faster.
Funny you say that as well. I'm from Scotland originally. I've got Canadian citizenship. I'll be up in Montreal over the next 6 months, but I've been trying to apply or set up my portfolio to apply for an O1 visa to move to the US, and been
Yep.
considering the places to move. And more and more and more, San Francisco has entered that conversation. If you want to be in tech, you want to be in this industry, you want to be at the forefront, it's the place to be. Are you from there? You moved there at some point recently?
I moved here. So I grew up in Southern California in LA, and then I went to school at MIT in Boston, other side of the country. But then as soon as I graduated, I came out here. It felt like, this is the place to be. It's where all the great technology companies are. It's where the talent is. And that's really proved out throughout my career so far. So I'm a big believer in the Bay Area and really love it here. It's amazing that I look out the window and the weather's perfect and it's a great place to live.
Yeah, I mean, being from Scotland, the weather being perfect is enough of a sell for me to move there. You
Yeah.
could take everything else out as long as it's not raining 9 months a year. That's enough of a positive.
Yeah.
I have one final question. I usually finish all my podcasts with this, and I'm not going to provide any further context on the conversation or on the question. I'll just let you take what you want from it. Why do you do what you do?
Hmm. That's a interesting question. Yeah, I think what I'm excited about is being able to build a company where we are really applying technology to make people's lives better in a very material way. I mean, I'm so excited about Newfront because there are so many professionals in this industry who have been really underserved by technology. It's kind of been an industry that's been living under a rock, as we sort of keep talking about. And this idea of applying technology here, it really feels like you can have a step function change, make things 100 times better in a way where, maybe other industries where AI is definitely going to have an impact and help things move faster. It sort of feels like they've already been keeping up with the modern times, and there isn't such a chance to really accelerate things or really pull things forward. So that's what I'm really excited about, and I think that's going to play out more and more with generative AI.
Awesome. Gordon, firstly, I want to thank you for your time. And secondly, if people want to learn more about what you do, who you are, what you're about, how would they do that?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Liam. Just send me an email at gordon@newfront.com. I'm always happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.